Alright, Chapter 1. Application, Approval, and Appeal Procedures. Introduction. The organization of one of the organizations described in the publication seeking recognition of the tank exempt staff of the IRS should follow the procedures described in the chapter about the instruction accompanying the appropriate application forms. For information on 501c, the organization, Section 501c, Organization, Chapter 3. If the organization exempt under one of the other paragraphs, Section 501c, Chapter 4. Topics. The chapters discuss the application procedure for the generally applied to the organizations discussed in the publication, including application forms, rules of determining letters, approvals, disapproval, the plea, the procedure for the available and adverse determination, letters proposed, and group exemption letters. Application procedure. Oral request for the recognition exemption won't be considered to be by IRSU. Application recognition for the tax exempts must be in writing unless the appropriate forms are discussed below. Forms required. If the organization requires organization seeking recognition for the exemption of the federal tax income must use the specific application prescribed by the IRS. Revision procurement 2017-5, 2017-11 IRB 230. If the organization is a central organization with exempt staff, the group with exemption layer, all applications must be examined with the authorized individual. Form 1023, application recognition for the exemption. File Form 1023 is seeking recognition exemption under status under the Section 501c3 corporations organized and or operated exclusively for the religious, charitable, scientific testing, or public safety, literary or educational purposes of fostering national, international, amateur sport for the prevention of cruelty to children and animals. 501E with the Cooperative Hospital Service Organization. 501F, the Cooperative Service Organization operating with the educational organizations. 501k, the certain organization providing the child with the care. 501N, charitable risk schools. 501Q, the credit council of the organization. But new Form 1023 EZ for the 2014, the IRS created the new Form 1023 EZ streamlined application for the recognition exemption under the Section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code. It can be used for the smaller organizations seeking exemption within the IRS. Generally, there are organizations which have an excess of $250,000 or less, an annual gross receipt of $50,000 or less. See Revision Procurement 2017-5 and 2017-11 or 2017-1 IRB 230. Form 1024, application recognition exemption under the Section 501A of the filing. Form 1024 is seeking for the recognition example under Section 501c2, holding corporation. 501c4, civil leagues and social welfare organizations. 501c5, local agricultural horticultural organization. 501c6, business league and the chambers of commerce, etc. 501c7, social clubs. 501c8, fraternal beneficiary society, orders and association. 501c9, voluntary employee beneficiary associations. 501c, domestic fraternal societies and or orders, etc. 501c12, benevolent life insurance association, multiple ditch and irrigation companies, multiple cooperative telephone companies. 501c13, cemetery companies. 501c15, mutual insurance companies and association. 501c17, for trust provided with the payment of the supplemental employment compensation benefits. 501c19, post organization auxiliary unit, etc. used in the past and present member of the armed forces of the United States. And 501c25, title holding corporation, the trust. Form 8718, use the fee of the exempt organization to determine letter request and must also send along with the Form 1024. Letter application. If the organization seeks the recognition of the exemption under the Section 501c 11, 14, 16, 18, 21, 22, 23, 26, 27, 28, 29, submit a letter application with the Form 8718 with the see the required inclusion with the information included with the letter of application and Form 1028 with the use of Form 1028 application for recognition exemption under the Section 521 of the Internal Revenue Code. If the organization, farmer, cooperative seeking recognition exemption under the Section 2521, you must also submit the Form 8718. Form 8871, using Form 8871 political organization knows the Section 527. If you are a political organization seeking for the treaty of the tax exempt under Section 527, unless exemption apply to the political organization income tax return. Some organizations do not have special application forms. Application your organization must include the specified chapter in the publication dealing with the kind of the organization, also showing the organizational reference chart. Power of attorney. If your organization expects to be represented with individuals such as an attorney, the certified public accountant officer, or the person authorized to participate in the IRS, whether in in person with the correspondingly must file with the Form 2848 with the power of attorney declaration with the representative with the explanation for the application for the power of attorney must specify authorized individual representative of the organization can name the organization firm and etc. for the representative with the Form 2848 can be used as purpose of the categories individual representative before IRS is on the phone. On the form, non-exemption for terrorist organization. Organization identified as designated with the terrorist organization when the meaning of Section 501(p)(2) is not eligible applicable to recognition of the exemption. User fee. The law requires the payment of the user the determinant level of the request for the such application for recognition for the tax exempt status is filing the Form 1023 for the fees information included with the reversion procedure for the 2017 5 Appendix A. If you're filing the Form 1024 EZ, the user fee must be submitted through Pay.gov. If you're required to apply with the recognition exemption submitting with the Form 1024 letter application, etc., you must pay a user fee. You should use the Form 8718 the figure of the pound of the user fee to pay it. Your payment must include the request that the IRS won't process the request unless the fee is paid, has been paid. Additional information regarding the user fees, including specific amounts, and continue with the reversion procurement 2017-5. For current users, fees amount for the progressive the application, go to the IRS Gov, select the charity for the nonprofits from the buttons near the top of the next, and select the underlying link applying with the tax exempt status, the latest user fees. And I want to check the status application for the more information. You can also call the 1-877-829-52500. Required inclusions: employer identification number. Every exempt organization must have an employer identification number, whether it not only has employees. An employee identification number is required before an exemption application is submitted. The information on how to apply with the employee identification number can be found on employer ID numbers EIN, and employment identification number to issue immediately once the application information is valid. If the previously applied with the employee identification number haven't you received it, you're ensured that where you have the employee identification number, please call the toll-free customer account service number 818-77829-5500 for assistance. Organization document: if you're submitting the Form 1023 or 1024, your application should include the copy of the organization enabling documentation signed by the principal officer of the company with a written declaration signed by the authorized individual certifying the document with a complete accurate with a copy of the original meeting with the requirement to conform copy to submitting with the Form 1023 EZ, but you do not need to include the copy of the organization documents. If the organization enabled the document articles including evidence was filed with the proof of the state official with the, for example, the state with the file copy dated with the Secretary of the State prima facie evidence that it was filed with the proof of the state official. A copy of the articles can also be submitted with the written document declaration by the authorized individual indicating the copy of the complete with was filled with the proof of the state, including by the filed. Bylaws. Bylaws are alone or organizational documents. However, the organization has the adopted bylaws that include a current copy of the bylaws not needed to sign and is subject to the attachment. If your organization name has officially changed the amendment of the organizing instrument you choose, you should attach the customized conform copy of the amendment to your application. Tip: bylaws may be considered an organizational document only if the properly structured, including the name, purpose, signature, intent with the form of the organization. Alright, it's conform copy. The conform copy for the copy of the agreed the original and all the amendments to the original document that are required for the signature of the copy shall either sign with the principal officer, if not signed with the company written declaration signed by the authorized officer of the organization with either the option of the officer must certify that the document of the complete accurate copy of the original certificate of incorporation should be approved with the date and with the approved appropriate state of the official attachments. When submitting an attachment, every attachment should show the organization name, the employee identification number. They should associate that the attachment, if your application of the form, they identify the part with the line item number to which it applies. Original documents. Do not submit original documents because they become part of the IRS file and it cannot be returned. Description of activities. Your application must include the full description of proposed activities of organization, including each for the fundraising activities, section 501c3. Organization narrative description is anticipated to receive the contemplated with the expenditure with the description of the activities which the organization is able to engage. You must include the standard criteria for the procedure for the other means of the organization is opposite plan with the carry out of those activities. Determine the information you need to provide with your study with the part of the publication that apply with the organization that apply. Be a chapter will describe the purpose of the activities of the organization, more purpose of the engagement, include for the application in order to achieve the exempt status. Often your organization article of the organization, other organization instruments contain description of the organization, purpose, and activities. Your application should describe completely in detail past and present and planned activities. Financial data. Unless you are filling the form 1023 EZ, we include the application for the financial statement showing the receipt of the expenditure for the balance sheet of the current year and 3 preceding years for the number of the years the organization was existing. If less than 4 years for accounting period, you must describe the source of the year's receipt and the nature of the expenditure. If you have become the operation and operated with less than 1 year proposed budget for the 2 full accounting periods of the current statement, assessment of liabilities will be acceptable. Exempt status establishing an application. If the application and so supporting document shall have show the organization meet the requirements of the following for tax exempt status under the code of the section and will apply with the IRS will issue the favorable determination lettering and ruling. Miscellaneous procedure. In help with the procedure application, be sure of the attachment schedule statements and other documents required for the application form. If you do not attach, they may have resubmitted with your application when you may otherwise encounter the delay of the processing your application. Incomplete application. If the application is incomplete, does not contain the required attachments found with the required inclusion, the IRS will return your completion, and the IRS will no longer request the missing. Information if the application is incomplete. See the revision procurement 2017 5. The IRS returns the application requesting additional information from you. The application will be considered filed the day of the substantial complete with the application from the marker, postmarked and the non-postmarked with the receipt. The IRS for application for the return to give to the application because they are incomplete. The user fee would be returned and refunded. Additional information may be requested and necessary to clarify the nature of the organization. Application made under the wrong paragraph of the section 501C. Occasionally, an organization identified may qualify exemption for the under the paragraph 501C3, but different from the one with which for the organization applied. But the application made with the form 1024 applied with more than one paragraph of the section 10501C. But the organization can be recognized as exempt under the paragraph to which the form applied with the organization requested to have the application considered under the paragraph that may also supply with additional information required for the application under the new paragraph. It is different application for the form required for the IRS will know the appropriate form to submit, although the supporting information previously furnished for the need not to be duplicated. You must provide the necessary additional information required for the application. If you reply with it isn't received within a limited time, your application will be processed only with the paragraph under which they originally applied. When a specific application you need is in paragraph under which the organization quality of the form is issued before the letter recognized the exemption be issued, includes the case for the determination letter for the modify the recognized the organizational exemption status of the paragraph other than the paragraph under which the original established exemption. IRS response. The organization submitted the complete with the application for the receipt of the acknowledgement of the from the IRS. An additional organization may receive a letter and request additional information from the IRS need to make the determination of requiring the immediate application. Those letters will be sent out as soon as possible after receipt of the organization application. Withdrawal application. Application withdrawn at any time before this issue of the determination letter with the written request for the principal officer authorized representative of your organization. However, the withdrawal won't prevent the information contained with the application from being used for the IRS subsequent examination of your organization. Return the information forward. The application will be returned to your organization. Generally, when the application is withdrawn, the user fee would be refunded. Request for the withholding information for the public law requires the exemption organization private foundation to make their application forms annual information returns available to the public inspection. Laws require IRS to make available to the public inspection in accordance with section 6104 of the related regulations. You approve the application recognition exemption, include any of the papers submitted to support the application of the ruling of the determination letter discussed later under the rulings of the determination letter. The information submitted with the application support with relates to any trade secret, patent, process, style of work, or apparatus upon request can be withheld with the public inspection of the IRS determines with the disclosure of such information with adversely affected the organization. You must your request must identify material with the help of the document paragraph in line with the clearing, making it not subject to the public, include the reason for the organization position for the information for the type of that can be withheld for the public inspection will be filed with the inspection where the organization filed with the documentation with the material withheld is contained. Whether to file send the application for the recognition for the exempt status other than the form 1023 EZ of the form 8718 if required internal revenue service of the P.O. Box 12-119-2 Covington, Kentucky 410120192. Your application will be considered executive order determination with the either issue with the favorable determination letter of the organization, issue with the adverse determination letter denying the exempt status of the claim with the application for the application of the exempt status form with 1023 EZ must be electronically submitted with the PayGov. The paper submission won't be accepted. Form 8940 with the request for the miscellaneous determination. You request the miscellaneous determination under Section 501, Subsection 509A, 4940, 4942, 4945, 633, and Form 8940 with the non-exemption charitable trust for the also filed with the 8940 initial determination, Section 509A3 with the status change with their type of the C, the Form 8940 with the instruction for the more information. Request these other applications. The request for the other application form of recognition exemption form 8940 with the example of request of rulings involved with the feeder of the organization application exercise of the taxes activity of the private foundation of taxation on related basic income etc. should be signed appropriate to address the revision procurement with the 2017-1 IRB1. The request of the similar application for the recognition of the exemption of the previous discussed must be accompanied by the appropriate use of the fees schedule with the user fees include those requested other than the application can be found with the revision procurement of the 2017-1 executive order determination that can request the technical advice of the office of chief of the council or TE and G on any question that can not be resolved of the basis of law of regulation clearly applicable to revenue ruling and other published precedents. See Section 3 revision procurement of 2017-5. Reminder: the law requires payment of the user fee of the determination letter request go to the revision procurement of 2016-32 with the fine the requirement payment. Payment must accompany each of the requests. Rules and determination letter. The public charity task, the new Section 501c3 of the organization will be classified publicly supported by the publicly supported organization, not private funding, but it can be shown but apply with the tax exemption staff that reasonably can be accepted. The publicly supported organization must describe the full activities in which they engage. This includes standard procurement procedure for the other means that include the hand of the organization for the carrying out of the activities, expected source of the funds, nature for the completed contemplated expenses. When an organization does not supply with the information previously mentioned for the application of the procedure, the failure to fails to furnish with a sufficiently detailed description of the proposed activity, the permit, the conclusion will clearly be exempt for the proposed adverse determination letter of the ruling by issued. Adverse determination. A proposed adverse rule of determination will be issued with the organization has not been provided sufficiently the information established to qualify for exemption with the information provided for the expression established for the does not qualify for the exemption. Organization can appeal to the proposed adverse rule and determining letter C appeal procedure here later. Expedited handling. Expect organization determining letter request to be eligible for the expected handling under Section 5.09 revision procurement 2017-5. Effective date of exemption. Or an effective date of exemption. The rule determining the level of the exemption of the usually effective date of the formation for the organization. The organization submitted the application for recognition of the exemption of the 24th and 7th month of the day of the formation during the period of the day before the day of the rule of determination letter. For the purpose of the activity required for the law of the usually obtain the recognition of the exemption, the organization can file with the fund with the income tax paid with the period of the exemption staff is recognized. If the organization requires the alter activity to substantial amendment of the charge of the qualified the returning the determination letter of recognition of the exemption will be effective as of the day of the specified for the letter of the non-substantial amendment made with the such correction, clerical error with the enabling instrument with the addition of the dissolution clause. The exemption will ordinarily be recognized with the date of the formation of the activity of the organization before the ruling determination or consistent with the exemption requirements. The ruling determination letter of exemption can be relied on if there is a material change of the inconsistent with the exemption in the Charter of purpose for the method of the operation of the organization rule of the determination letter that can be relied on the basis of the inaccurate the material faculty factually representation. For more information about the effective date of the exemption revision procurement in 2017-5 of the Section 6 revocation exemption. Rule of the determining letter of the revocation exemption may be revoked by the notice of the organization to wait for the rule of the determination letter of the originally was issued enactment of the legislation ratification of the tax treaty, the Treaty of the United States Supreme Court issuing the temporary final regulation or issuance of revenue ruling of the revenue procedure for the other statement published in the Internal Revenue Bulletin and Colonial to the Bulletin, Section 60333 J. The failure to require the annual report or returning the note for 3 consecutive years automatically when revocation takes effect. An organization admitted the misstated with the material faculty operating with the material different within the originally represented with regard to the organization to which Section 503 applies to engage with the prohibited transactions such as diverting corporate income of the tax from exempt purpose of the revocation modification will be retroactive. Material change in organization. If there is a material change inconsistent with the exemption charge for the purpose of the method of operation of the organization, revocation modification will ordinarily take effect for the day of the material change. Relief of the retroactive ruling of the terminating level of the issue of the IRS change of the position with the after issuing of the ruling of the Section 7805B. Relief of the grant of the retroactive of the revocation ordinarily limited to the day of the nearly, not earlier than which for the ordinary original ruling of the terminating level was revoked. For more information, requesting Section 7805B. Relief to see revision procurement 2017-2 with their 2017-1 IRB 1006. The foundation determination the effective date of the same of the revocation modification foundation status, the operating foundation status, unless the effective date is expressly converted with the status with regulations. Written notice: if the executive order is amended for the conclusion for the result of examining if there information for the resulting return for the consideration information from any of the source of the ruling determination later that should be revoked or modified, the organization will be used in writing with the proposed action and the reason for it, of it. The organization will use advise the required for the protest for the proposed action with the request for the appeal for the consideration appeal procedure for the discussion discussed next. Appeal procedure: if the organization applied for the recognition for the tax exempt status, the rulings agreement to decide if the organization does not qualify, your organization would advise that the rights of the protest for the determination requesting appeal to other consideration. Your organization must submit the statement viewed fully explained with the reason with the statement that must be submitted with written 30 days for the day of the verse. Determination letter must be state with whether the appeal for the office of consideration representation. Principal office the trustee can represent the officer organization level of appeal within the IRS. Also, in turning with the certificate, certified public accountant individual can enroll with the practice of the IRS can be represented with the organization. If the organization represents intended with the conference with the principal office of the trustee, the representative must file with the proper power of the attorney with the tax information authorization before receiving and inspecting confidential information form 2848 with the form 8821 tax information authorization approved the appropriate any other properly written power of the attorney and authorization can be used for the purpose of the form that can be obtained by the IRS. For more information for the publication 947 practice before the IRS power of attorney. Appeal of the office of consideration. Rules and agreements will come considered for the same with the protesting of the appealing here and the appealing with the reverse of the determination decide for the information effective of the determination. If the appeal does not provide the basis of consideration adverse to determination and award for the appeal, it will be forwarded to appeal and called for the appeals office for more information for the rules of the appeal office to see the publication 892 with how to appeal IRS decision with the tax exempt staff. The appeal should include the following information: the organization name, the address, date, and daytime telephone number employed with the identification number. The statement the organization wants to protest the determination. Copy of the letter shown with the determination will disagree with the date of the symbol of the determination letter. Statement the fact that the support of the organization position with a contested factual issue. Statement outlining the law and other authority of the organization rely on. The statement whether the conference of the appeals also is desired. The statement of the facts and forward more than item 4 must be declared with the true under the penalty of the perjury the amended to be done acting with the protesting the following signed declaration. Under penalty of the perjury, I declare that I have examined the statement of facts presented with the protest and if any with the company with the scheduled statement, the best knowledge and belief of the true, correct, and complete signature. If the organization represents the submitted appeal of the substituted declaration must include the stating with the representative prepared with the appeal with the company with the documents, whether the representative knows the person and all the statements of the fact contained with the appeal with the company with the documents with the true and correct. Be sure the appeal contains all the information required for the incomplete appeal will be returned for completion and conference request that they will be held with the appeals office unless the organization requests the meeting to be held with the appeals office convenient with both parties. The appeals office will consider the organization appeal with as well with the information presented with the conference will help to notify the organization the decision of the issue. Appropriate determination adverse the decision can be applied with the courts and discussed later. The appeal office must request technical advance advice for the exemption of the organization issue the concern with the qualification for the exempt for the foundation staff for which they are not public to participate and for which the reason to believe the non-uniformity exists for the organization to believe that the case involves such issuing that it should be appealed for the office requesting technical advice. The determination letter issued with the basis of technical advice can be appealed with the appeals office for the issue there will be subject to the technical advice. Administrative remedy for the incapable of application under the Section 501C and 501D with the exemption of the tax under the 501A allowing the following actions called for the administrative remedies must completed by your organization before unfavorably ruling the determination letter of the IRS can be appealed by the courts. Following substantial complete with the application form 1023, 1024, group exemption requested in 501C, 501D exempt for the tax under 501A, describing either the chapter of the following requested determination found in stage status private foundation, public charity, see chapter 3. 2. In the case of the late field application request under the regulation section 301-90-100 regarding the application extension time of the making of the application for the application relief of the tax application of the recognition exemption. Chapter 3, the timely submission of the additional information required for the perfect exemption from the application for receive the determination in private foundation status exhaustion of the administrative appeal of the available to the IRS. The action as just described would be considered complete with the IRS have been reasonably timed with the act upon the appeal of the protest in the case for the being or maybe organization may consider to have exhausted the administrative remedies before earlier the completion of the step adjusted list of the signing of the certified registered mail of the notice of determination expiration of the 270-day period with the IRS not issued with the notice of the final determination and the organization have then taken a timely manner reasonable step that securing the fulfilling of the determination. 270-day period. A 270-day period will be considered by the IRS beginning with the day of the substantial completion of the Form 1023, 124. The group exemption requests is sent for the IRS. See the application procedure, either earlier information needed for the Form 1023 and 1024. If the application does not contain all of the required items, it won't be further processed. Maybe the return for the applicant completion 270 days period in the event won't be considered starting until the day of the application is remailed to the IRS with the requested information or if the postmark is evident on the day of the IRS received the substantial completed application. Appeal to the courts. If the IRS issues the unfavorable determination letter ruling the organization because you have exhausted all the administrative remedies just discussed, the organization seeking judicial remedies. For example, if the organization has to pay tax exemption versus determination meet all the standard prerequisites and it can suit for the refund of the U.S. District Court, the U.S. Federal claims. If your organization elected not to pay the tax deficiency result of the adverse determination meet all the statutory prerequisites, can file suit with the determination tax deficiency in the United States Tax Court. For more information for the types of suits, for the publication 556. Examination of the returns, appeals, rights, and claims to fund certain situations in the organization can be filed suit the declaratory judgment, the U.S. District Court, the District of Columbia, the U.S. Court of the Federal Claims, U.S. Tax Court, and remedy if available for organization of evidence of the adverse notification final determination. The IRS failed to make the timely determination initial continuing qualification classification exempt organization. However, your exemption status claim must be an organization qualifying under Section 501C or 501D with exemption tax under 501A. Organization with which the deduction contribution allowed under Section 170C2 or organization private foundation under Section 509A. The private or operating funding under Section 4942J3 and cooperative organization exempt for the tax under Section 521. The first notice and final determination. The first notice of the final determination is referred to the above the ruling determination letter sent by the certified registered mail holding under the organization. It is described in Section 501C, 501D, exempt from tax under 501A, Section 170C2, and the private foundation defined in Section 4942J3. If the public charity described in the private 509A of the Section 170B1A, other than part of which the organization requested classification. Favorable court rulings, IRS procedure. If the suit results in final determination, organization exempt from the tax, IRS will issue the favorable ruling determination letter provided the organization has filled the application exemption submitted to the state and the underlying facts of the applicable law in the same of the period considered by the court. A group exemption letter. A group exemption letter with the ruling determination letter for the issue of the central organization recognized for the group of the issue based for the exemption under section of the 501c subordinate organization whose behalf of the central organization applied with the recognition of the exemption. The central organization of the organization that has one or more subordinates under the general supervision with the control subordinate organization is a chapter or local posted unit with the central organization, but the central organization must be subordinate itself to the state organization for the subordinate unit for itself affiliated with the national central organization. A subordinate organization may or may not be incorporated. Must include the may or may not be incorporated. Must have an organization document. Subordinate that organizes the operating in the foreign country can be included with the group extension letter. Subordinate described in Section 501c3 cannot be included by group exemption letter if provided with the foundation described in Section 509A. If your organization is subordinate controlled by a central organization, for example, churches, veterans, organs, a fraternal organization, you can check with the central organization to see if the beneficiary of the group exempt of that letter covers the organization. If it has or you do not have the file separate application unless your organization no longer wants you to include the group or exemption letter. If your group exemption letter does not cover the organization, ask your central organization about you being included with the next annual group enrolling updated submitted to the IRS. Central Organization Application Procedure. If the organization for the central organization affiliated with the subordinates under this control comply for the group with the exemption determined, the subordinates provided they obtain with recognized with their own exemption before the concurrently with the group with exemption should be made with the application subordinates with the letter of the instead of the submitting either of the form 123 or 1234 procedure reviews each of the subordinate recovered the group with exemption letter for the following application central organization obtained with the recognition for the exemption by the sending of the application by the IRS address shown in figure form 8718 and form 1023. Central organization previously obtained with the recognition for the owner of the exemption, and it must indicate with the employer identification number then the date with the letter recognizing the exemption need for the forward documents already submitted with the however if not already done. So the central organization must submit of the amendment with the governing the instruction with the internal relationships as well as the information for the change with the characteristic purpose the method of operation. Employer identification number. The central organization must have the EI employee identification number before it submits the completed exemption with the group with exemption application for each of the subordinate must have its own employee identification number that even if it has no employees when submitting its group exemption application for the central organization must provide the employee identification number of the subordinate organization. Information required for the subordinate organization. In addition to the information required for the obtain the recognition for their own exemption with the central organization must submit the information for these subordinates to be included with the group with exemption letter. The information for the shall be forwarded letter signed with the principal officer central organization set forth and included within each of the attachments. Information verifying the subordinates affiliated with the central organization with the close of the annual or accounting period of the area or subject to the general supervision of the control are eligible qualifying example under the same paragraph section 501c. They are not through the necessary paragraph under the section. Social organization itself exempt. Private foundations are applicable to the group with extension letter of the section 501c3 are all same accounting period with the central organization if they are to be included with the group returns or the organization have been informed with the 15-month period preceding the date of the submission for the group exemption the applicant for their claim with the 501c3 with the staff subject to the requirement with the subsection 508 with which they recognize with the exempt this of the date of the creation group with examination may be issued for the covering subordinate with one or more they have been organized with the 15-month period preceding the day of the submission and all subordinates will be having recognized with exempt only for the date of the application. A detailed description of the purpose of the activity subordinate includes, including the source of the receipts, but the nature of the expenditure of the sample of the uniform governing instrument, such as the entirety of the article of the association adopted the subordinate in the absence of the copy of the representative information instruments. An affirmation of the effect of the best of the officer's knowledge for the purpose of the activity of the subordinate and or stated with the 2 and 3 above. The statement that each of the subordinates have provided with the written authorization of the central organization signed by the authorized officer subordinate with agreeing with the include the group exemption with the C, the new 501c organization that wanted to be included later in the section. List of subordinates included with the group examination letter to which the IRS has been issued the outstanding rules and the determining letter of the relating to the exemption. 7. If application group exemption letter would involve the 501c3 with the subject of the provision of the code requiring the given timely notice that isn't private found with the C private foundation chapter 3, the affirmation of the effect of the best for the officer's knowledge, believe no subordination to be included with the group exemption letter was provided with the foundation defined in section 509A. For each subordinate that is a school claiming an exemption under 501c3 for information required with the Revenue Rule 714-719-712 CB 230 Revision Procurement 7550 1975 2 CB 587. These requirements are fully described in the chapter 3 under private schools. See all the Schedule B 123 form. For any school affiliated with a church, information shown for the provision of Revenue Rule 75-231-1975-1 TB 158 has been met. 10. A list of the name and mailing addresses, mutual address with different with the employee identification number. Subordinates include the group with examination level. The current director with the subordinates may be furnished instead of the list included with required information with the subordinates, not including the group with examination exemption letter when identified. Alright, your new 501c organization that want to be included. A new organization described in section 501c that wants to be included with the group exemption letter must be submitted with the authority that explained within item number 5 the earlier with the information required with the subordinate organization. The central organization required before the end of the 15th of the month after it has been formed in order to satisfy the requirements of section 508e. The central organization must also include the subordinate in the next annual submission so information as discussed later and under information required annually. Keeping the group exemption letter in force. Continued effectiveness of the group exemption letter is based on the following conditions: continued existence of the central organization, continued qualification of the central organization for exemption under Section 501C. The submission of the central organization with the information regarding the subordinate organization is required for the annual described information required annually. The annual filing of the information return form 990, for example, the central organization, if required, the continued effectiveness of the group exemption letter of the particular subordinate based on these four conditions, as well as the continued conformity of the subordinate with the requirements, inclusion of the group exemption letter of the authorization and inclusion with the annual filing with the required information returned to the subordinate. Information required annually to maintain the group of the exemption letter of the centrally organized must submit annually at least 90 days before the close of the annual accounting period with all the following information about all the change purpose of the character method of operation and subordinates include the group of the exemption letter. A separate list that includes the name of the mailing address, the actual addresses, if and different, with the employee identification number, the effective subordinate. Each of the three following categories following subordinate that have changed their name and address during the year. B. The subordinate no longer be included with the group exemption letter because they no longer exist. They have disaffiliated with the withdrawal authority of the central organization. Subordinate to be added with the group of exemption letter because they are newly organized affiliated with because they have recently authorized the central organization included in a noted directory of the subordinates will not be accepted for the purposes if they are none of the above changed, but the central organization must submit the same effect. The same information new subordinate was required for the initial application of the group exemption. The information listed in items 1 through 10 under the information required for the subordinate organization earlier. If a new subordinate does not differ from the material respect for the subordinate includes the application for the group exemption. However, the statement with the effect may be submitted in lieu of the detailed information. The organization will send the information to Ogaden Services Center, mail stop 6271, Ogaden, Utah 84201, 4749. Submitting required information annually does not relieve the central organization any of the subordinates for the duly submitted of any other information required in the EO. Early manager to determine whether the conditions of continued exemption are being met. Or event causing loss of the group exemption. A group exemption letter no longer has an effect for either particular subordinate of the group as a whole. The central organization notifies the IRS of the going out of existence. Central organization notifies the IRS as being annually submission for the otherwise any of the subordinates will no longer be filled. The conditions contained in the effectiveness examination explained earlier. The IRS notifies the central organization of the effect of the subordinate with the group of the exemption. It's a letter leave no longer having effect with some of the other groups to cover the condition of the continued effectiveness of the group exemption letter have been fulfilled. When notice is given under these three conditions, the IRS will no longer recognize the exemption staff with effective subordinates until they have file separate applications of their own. Behalf of the certain organization filed with the complete subordinate information re-inclusion with the group exemption time of the annual submission. However, the notice was given to the IRS withdrawing the recognition based on the failure to organize the complete with the requirements of recognition of the exam exemption status, particular subsection 501C with the revocation of the ordinarily taken effect of the date of the failure. The notice, however, will be given only after the appeal procedure described earlier in this chapter are completed. Chapter 2, Filing Requirements and Required Disclosures.